The great chamber of the Galactic Council was filled with voices from 1,000 worlds. Representatives from every known civilization sat in curved rows that stretched around the massive hall. The ceiling shimmered with a projection of the stars, each light marking a world bound by the ancient council charter. For centuries, this place had been the center of unity and peace. But today, the air carried tension instead of hope. At the center of the hall stood a single human, Commander Rian, the last official representative of Earth. His uniform was plain gray with a small silver emblem on his chest, the mark of the Terran Federation. His expression was calm, but his eyes showed exhaustion. He had traveled across 50 light-years to stand here, and the words he carried would change the galaxy. The council chair, an elder being from the Velen species, adjusted the glowing ring around her neck and addressed the hall in her usual calm tone. Representative Rian of Earth, the council awaits your statement. We understand there are matters you wish to bring before us. Rian's voice carried clearly through the chamber. There is only one matter, Chair. Humanity is leaving the Galactic Council. The hall fell silent. Hundreds of species stared at him in disbelief. Some thought they had misheard. The council had existed for 3,000 years, and no major species had ever withdrawn from it. The Velen chair blinked slowly, her golden eyes reflecting confusion. Commander Rian, such a decision cannot be made lightly. Perhaps you wish to clarify your meaning? Rian looked up toward the holographic stars. For generations, humans believed in this council. We believed that cooperation and fairness could guide the galaxy. We built ships to defend common borders. We shared technology and we sacrificed lives in wars that were not ours. But we have learned that the council stands only when it benefits the powerful. A murmur spread through the crowd. The representatives of the Trawl, the blue-skinned traders of the Outer Rim, began whispering among themselves. The High Ambassador of the Corel, a tall insectoid, clicked his mandibles in disapproval. Human emotion clouds reason once again, he hissed. Rian turned toward him. Emotion gave us empathy. Empathy built peace where your fleets brought only conquest. Yet you call that weakness. A dozen voices rose at once, shouting objections. The council chair raised her hands to calm the uproar. Order, please. Let the humans speak, Rian continued. When humanity joined the council, we were told we would have a voice equal to others. But when our colonies were attacked by pirates, the council delayed aid. When our proposals for border protection were ignored, our ships stood alone. And when humans died defending council worlds, our pleas for support were met with silence. He paused, letting the words hang heavy in the air. The translator nodes scattered across the hall whispered his words into every known language. Even those who once dismissed humans as short-lived and loud felt the weight of his tone. The Terran Federation can no longer serve an alliance that does not value its members, Rian said firmly. From this day forward, humanity withdraws from all council obligations and will operate independently. Trade routes, defense pacts, and research agreements, all will end within the next cycle. The entire hall erupted in voices. Some were outraged, others frightened. The council chair's composure cracked for the first time in decades. Commander Rian, this decision will cause great instability. You cannot simply walk away. Rian looked directly at her. We already have. He reached into his pocket and took out a small metallic symbol, the silver emblem of the Galactic Council. He placed it gently on the crystal table before him. The symbol of unity caught the light one last time before dimming. Then he turned and walked toward the exit. Guards at the door, two tall beings from the Rhinar species, stepped aside without a word. The sound of Rian's boots echoed through the chamber. Every step felt like a closing chapter in history. When the doors shut behind him, the council chamber was left in stunned silence. For a long moment, no one spoke. Finally, an ambassador from the Ilari, a gentle aquatic species, whispered, "They will return. Humans are emotional but practical. They will realize they need us." But another voice, cold and sharp, replied, "Or perhaps we needed them more than we thought." Outside the council hall, Rian walked through the wide corridors of Calora Prime's capital station. Towering windows showed the endless black of space dotted with stars. Ships of all kinds came and went. Council freighters, ambassadorial transports, and patrol craft. Yet even the busy station seemed quieter than usual. As he moved toward the docking bays, human officers waited beside their ship, the Solace. Their expressions were serious, but there was also relief. The long struggle for recognition had finally ended. Lieutenant Mara, His communications officer approached him. "Sir, are we really done? No more negotiations?" Ryan nodded. "It's over. The council made their choice long ago. We just made ours." She glanced out the viewport where the planet shimmered below. "They'll panic when they realize what this means. The supply lines, the medical fleets, the patrol routes, they all depend on us." Ryan gave a faint smile. "They called us reckless. Maybe they were right. But at least we act when something needs to be done." As the crew boarded, the ship's engines came alive with a low hum. Ryan took one last look at the world of Calora Prime. It was a place of beauty and politics, where promises were made and forgotten in the same breath. He knew many within the council were not evil, only blind to the imbalance they had built. When the Solace lifted from the docking ring, the human insignia on its hull glowed bright against the dark. Dozens of smaller vessels followed, forming a convoy heading toward the jump gates. Every ship carried scientists, diplomats, and families, all leaving behind a system that had failed them. As they crossed the threshold into hyperspace, Earth Command transmitted a final statement to the Council network. It was brief and clear. Effective immediately, the Terran Federation withdraws from all Council obligations. Human space will be closed to foreign intervention until further notice. We thank those who stood beside us in good faith. May your stars remain bright. The message spread across the galaxy within hours. Some species dismissed it as a bluff. Others understood the meaning right away. Humanity was gone. Back in the council chamber, the debates continued late into the night. The Corel demanded sanctions against humanity. The Velen chair refused. The Trial traders feared losing human markets. The Yalari healers worried about losing human medical research. Every faction had something to lose, but few would admit it openly. The council chair sat alone after the session ended. Her assistant, a young diplomat, approached carefully. "Madam Chair, should we send an envoy to Earth to request reconsideration?" She looked out toward the distant stars projected across the ceiling. "No, they will not listen now. Perhaps one day when they see what their absence brings." Her words felt heavy, like a prophecy no one wanted to hear. In the days that followed, news networks across the galaxy broadcast images of human ships leaving council space. On distant worlds, crowds gathered to watch in disbelief. Some celebrated, calling it a sign of human pride. Others felt unease, as if a vital part of the galaxy had suddenly disappeared. In the industrial systems of the council, engineers realized how many technologies came from human designs: reactor stabilizers, energy converters, medical scanners. On the frontier colonies, trade captains noticed how many of their goods traveled on human ships. And in defense stations orbiting border worlds, officers remembered how often human fleets had arrived first whenever danger came. One quiet evening on a council world near the Rim, an alien child asked her teacher, "Why are the humans leaving?" The teacher hesitated, unsure how to answer. Finally, she said, "Because sometimes when people are not treated fairly, they go find a place where they can be." The child looked up at the sky. "Will they come back?" The teacher sighed softly. "I don't know, but I think the stars will miss them." On the Solace, Commander Rian stood on the observation deck. The stars ahead stretched into an endless horizon. Around him, his crew worked with quiet focus, guiding their fleet toward the edge of known space. Each ship carried hopes, fears, and determination. Mara approached him again, holding a small tablet. "Sir, Earth Command says the new colonies are ready. They want you to oversee the first phase." Ryan nodded. "We'll start fresh. No politics, no false promises. Just work, progress, and unity." She smiled faintly. "Do you think the council will ever change?" Ryan looked out at the glowing path of hyperspace. "Maybe, but change only happens when it hurts. And for the first time, they're about to feel what it's like to lose something they took for granted." He turned away from the window and walked toward the command chair. The stars shifted as the fleet accelerated. Behind them, the old galaxy continued to argue and decay. Ahead of them, new worlds waited, untouched, full of possibility. Humanity had departed not in anger, but in quiet resolve. They carried their ideals into the unknown, ready to build something better. The council, still unaware of the storm their arrogance had awakened, watched from afar as the light of human ships faded into the distance. And for the first time in 1,000 years, the great Galactic Council Hall stood silent, its proud banners still waving, but its unity already broken. Weeks passed since the humans had walked out of the Galactic Council. The grand chamber that once echoed with human voices now felt strangely hollow. The seat marked with Earth's blue insignia remained empty, untouched, and it seemed like a shadow fell across the council floor whenever anyone looked at it. At first, the other races pretended nothing had changed. The council continued to meet, to debate, and to send their endless messages of unity and peace. But beneath that calm surface, the cracks had already begun to show. Trade fleets that used to cross human-controlled space were suddenly halted. Merchants complained that human customs stations were closed, and their ships were being redirected through longer, more dangerous routes. The council tried to patch the gaps by assigning patrols, but human systems had always formed the central link in the galactic trade network. Without them, the web of commerce started to fall apart. On the bustling markets of Tral 9, traders shouted in frustration as energy crystals, medical compounds, and refined metals grew scarce. The humans used to bring this every month, one merchant complained as he slammed a datapad on his counter. Now I wait 3 cycles and still nothing arrives. His customer, a reptilian miner from the rim, hissed in anger. We should have never let them go. They were the only ones who kept these routes safe. Safe. Another trader laughed bitterly, until they left and took half the safety with them. Across the galaxy, similar conversations echoed on every world. Ships broke down because human engineers were no longer around to maintain the drives. Colonies that depended on human medical teams saw a rise in disease. Even simple technologies began to fail because the humans had been the ones to standardize most of the galaxy's systems. At first, the council dismissed these problems as temporary. The Velen chair tried to reassure everyone in a calm voice during a public broadcast. The council has faced many challenges in its long history, she said. The withdrawal of the Terran Federation, while unfortunate, will not break our unity. But not everyone shared her confidence. The ambassador of the Yllari spoke in quiet distress. Madam Chair, our colonies near the Outer Arm report that the human defense beacons have gone offline. Pirate fleets are already gathering. We request immediate support. The chair gave a patient sigh. We will send ships when available. When available? The Yllari ambassador said, her watery eyes shining with fear. By the time you decide, our colonies will already be lost. The hall fell silent. No one had a better answer. In the weeks that followed, the first reports of chaos reached the Central Worlds. The Outer Rim trade convoys were attacked by raiders, the same pirates that humans had once fought tirelessly to keep away. The Council fleets responded too slowly, and their captains were not used to fighting without human coordination. In one corner of the galaxy, near the border of the old Terran sectors, a convoy of refugee ships drifted through empty space. They had been fleeing a pirate attack when their engines failed. Inside one of the ships, a young alien named Rhea from the Curtain race stared at the silent control panels. Power cells are empty, said her brother, voice trembling. We'll run out of air soon. Rhea looked out the window toward the stars, hoping to see a rescue beacon. In the old days, humans would have come. They always came, no matter who called for help. But now the stars looked cold and empty. Do you think the humans will hear us? Her brother asked. She shook her head sadly. They don't listen to the council anymore. Maybe they don't listen to anyone. The boy closed his eyes, whispering, they were heroes once. Rhea wanted to believe that was still true. On Earth, far from the confusion of the council worlds, things were very different. The skies above the planet were filled with ships leaving for new colonies. Massive engines roared as vessels prepared to enter hyperspace. People on the ground watched the glowing trails with pride. The news channels called it the Great Departure. Humanity was expanding beyond the old boundaries, building new settlements that answered to no alien government. Every ship carried families, builders, scientists, and soldiers, all determined to create something stronger than before. At the Terran Fleet headquarters in Geneva Dome, Commander Ryan stood before a large display showing dozens of bright dots spreading across the galaxy. He studied the pattern quietly, then turned to his aide. How are the colonies progressing? He asked. Lieutenant Mara replied. The first wave has reached the Vega cluster. The second group is setting up on Haven Prime. They've already established power grids and defense platforms. Good, Ryan said. No contact from the council? None, sir. Their last message was 2 weeks ago. They requested trade negotiations, but the council command declined. Rayan nodded. Keep it that way. We need distance to grow. Mara hesitated for a moment. Do you think they'll understand what's happening to them now? Ryan gave a thoughtful look. They're beginning to. The Council forgot what humanity meant to the galaxy. They thought we were just soldiers or traitors. They never saw that we were the glue holding their worlds together. Outside the window, a fleet of new ships rose from the launch bays. Each one carried the symbol of the Terran Union, a silver star surrounded by a ring of light. Humanity was moving forward and nothing could stop it. Meanwhile, at the Council's main defense headquarters, chaos spread through the command network. Officers argued about how to secure the borders. The reports of attacks grew worse. A young officer named Lurak stared at a tactical screen. The Rilkar pirates just took another mining station near the Helion belt, he said nervously. That's the 5th one this week. His superior, a veteran of the Council Navy, rubbed his temples. Where are reinforcements? Still 2 systems away, sir. 2 systems? Humans would have reached there in half the time. The officer stopped, realizing what he had said, but his commander only nodded grimly. You're right. They would have. And they would have already planned 10 steps ahead. Across the command floor, someone muttered, Maybe we should ask them for help. The room fell silent for a moment. The commander looked up sharply. The Council will never approve that. Then the Council will watch more worlds burn. Another voice replied quietly. By the 3rd month after humanity's departure, the situation had worsened. The galactic economy began to shrink. Planets that once depended on human-made goods faced shortages. Ships broke down faster because spare parts were no longer available. Entire medical centers closed when their human-built equipment stopped working. In the entertainment channels, talk shows argued about who was to blame. Some said humanity was selfish. Others said the Council had betrayed them. But everyone agreed on one thing. The galaxy felt emptier without them. Even the Velen chair, once so confident, started to show signs of fatigue. During a late-night meeting, she spoke to her advisors. Perhaps we were too proud, she said softly. Perhaps we assumed they needed us more than we needed them. Her aide, a calm and logical being, tried to reassure her. They will come back. No civilization can survive alone for long. But the chair shook her head. These are not ordinary humans anymore. They have survived everything. Wars, plagues, the cold of space. They do not run from challenges. They master them. She leaned back and looked toward the ceiling where the stars shimmered. And now they are mastering the galaxy without us. In the quiet corners of the galaxy, not everyone saw humanity's departure as a loss. Some saw opportunity. Pirate kings, warlords, and corrupt governors began expanding their influence. Without human patrols, the edges of Council space became lawless. Smugglers filled the void that once carried honest trade. But something else began to happen as well. Stories. Stories about human ships appearing out of nowhere to rescue stranded travelers. Tales of a shadow fleet that helped rebuild damaged colonies. No one could confirm if they were true, but the stories spread fast. They say the humans have a new alliance, whispered a merchant in a smoky port. A union of their own worlds. They trade with no one but themselves. Another merchant leaned closer. I heard they built ships larger than any the Council ever had. Lies, said a third. They don't have that kind of power. The first one smiled faintly. Maybe not before. But they always learn fast. On the human colony of Haven Prime, the streets were alive with activity. Tower cranes lifted modules into place while engineers worked under the bright glow of the twin suns. Children played in parks surrounded by fields of silver grass. It was a world still young but full of hope. Commander Rian visited one of the construction sites. A local worker saluted him. Sir, this world is shaping up faster than expected. In another year, we'll have full self-sustainability. Ryan smiled. That's the goal. We don't just survive anymore, wait there, we build. As he looked across the landscape, he felt a deep sense of peace. The Council had rejected humanity, but that rejection had become their greatest strength. They were united now in a way they had never been before. Back in the Council Hall, a final attempt was made to reach the humans. A small delegation was sent to Earth, carrying messages of apology and requests for renewed talks. But when they arrived, the humans did not respond. The ships waited at the border of Terran space, broadcasting messages again and again. After 3 days, they received a single transmission. A calm voice spoke in perfect galactic standard. Months passed since humanity had turned away from the Galactic Council, and now the entire galaxy was beginning to feel the weight of their absence. What started as small disruptions in trade and communication had grown into full-scale disorder. The once crowded trade lanes between the central worlds were half empty. Freight ships sat motionless in orbit, waiting for clearances that never came. On several frontier planets, warehouses filled with perishable goods rotted because there were no human cargo ships to move them. On the agricultural world of Naris, farmers stood in fields that were dying under strange blight. Their machines, once maintained by human engineers, had stopped working. A farmer kicked the control console in frustration. "It's useless," he muttered. "We sent requests for help 3 weeks ago. No one has answered." His neighbor sighed and looked toward the evening sky. "If humans were still around, they'd already be here." The farmer nodded. "They never waited for permission. They just helped." That simple truth spread quietly through the galaxy. Humans never waited for someone to tell them to do the right thing. They simply did it. Inside the grand chambers of the Galactic Council, fear replaced arrogance. The daily meetings grew longer and more chaotic. Delegates shouted over one another. The Velen chair, who once ruled with calm authority, struggled to keep control. "We must re-establish the patrol routes," she said firmly. "Our outer colonies are defenseless." The insectoid ambassador of the Corel shook his head. "Our fleets are overstretched. We lost 3 more stations this week. We cannot protect them all." The ambassador of the Yalari raised her voice next. "Our medical ships cannot reach the colonies near the rim. Diseases are spreading. We have lost entire towns." A deep silence followed. No one wanted to admit it, but every race in the chamber knew the truth. Humanity had been the backbone of the Council. Their fleets, their engineers, their doctors. Without them, the galaxy was slowly breaking. On a small moon near the border of the old Terran sectors, Captain Tren of the Council Defense Force stood before a damaged holographic map. Red lights blinked across the display, showing the growing number of lost colonies. A young officer stepped forward nervously. "Sir, we just received another distress call from the Laren Belt. Pirate ships are attacking mining stations. They're asking for reinforcements." Tren rubbed his forehead. "How far is our nearest fleet?" 4 systems away, sir," he sighed. "By the time we reach them, it'll be too late." The officer hesitated. "Permission to speak freely, Captain?" "Go ahead. We could request aid from the Terrans. Their fleets are nearby. Maybe they'll respond." Tren shook his head slowly. "The Council forbade that. We can't rely on them anymore." "But sir," the officer said quietly, "maybe we already rely on them without knowing it." Tren looked at the glowing red map again. The galaxy seemed to be bleeding. "Maybe you're right," he whispered. On the planet Halora, once known for its peaceful universities, riots broke out in the capital. Students marched through the streets carrying banners that read, "Bring back the humans." Food shortages had struck the city, and local factories had shut down after their human-built processors failed. Inside the Council embassy, diplomats watched the chaos from their windows. The Yalari representative turned to his assistant. "Do you see what is happening?" "They are blaming us for this." His assistant nodded slowly. "Because it was the Council that pushed them away." Back on Earth, the situation was the opposite. Humanity was thriving. The cities glowed with progress, and the skies above were alive with fleets preparing to expand deeper into uncharted space. Commander Ryan stood in a wide observation room at Terran Fleet headquarters. The screens around him displayed reports from the new colonies, Haven Prime, Solera Reach, New Dawn. Each one showed growth, order, and hope. Lieutenant Mara entered holding a data pad. "Sir, the Council has sent another message. They are asking for a joint meeting to discuss border security." Ryan didn't look away from the screens. "And our answer?" "Earth Command said no. The Council refused to listen when we needed them. Now they must learn what it means to stand alone." Ryan gave a slow nod. "Then that's our position. But keep monitoring their distress channels. I want to know everything that happens beyond our borders." She smiled slightly. "You still care what happens to them?" "I care about the people," Ryan said softly. "Even if their leaders never cared about us." He walked toward the viewport, watching a fleet of silver ships depart for another colony. "We tried to build unity," he continued, "but they only saw us as tools. Now they will understand that humanity was not just another race in their alliance. We were the heart that kept it beating. Weeks later, the situation worsened. Reports flooded in of pirate empires forming across the galaxy. They captured spaceports, stole Council technology, and enslaved smaller colonies. Without human patrols, the Council had no real deterrent left. On Calora Prime, the Council's central planet, the once bright city lights dimmed as power shortages began. Supplies were running low, and even the Council guards looked uneasy. During an emergency session, the Velen chair rose to speak. "We cannot continue like this. Our unity is collapsing. We must reach out to the Terrans, even if it means swallowing our pride." The Corel ambassador slammed his claws on the table. "They abandoned us. They made this happen." The chair met his gaze calmly. "No, Ambassador. We made this happen when we ignored them." A murmur spread across the hall. The Yllari ambassador spoke next. "Our scientists estimate that within 2 years, half of our colonies will fail if this continues. If the Terrans truly are rebuilding their own alliance, perhaps it is time to ask for their guidance." Some delegates shouted in anger. Others sat in silence, too tired to argue. The meeting ended without resolution like all the others. In the shadowed regions beyond Council space, human ships were already watching. The Terran Union's Deep Space Command operated from a massive station orbiting the star Vega. Inside its control center, Admiral Soren observed the Council's broadcasts. His eyes were calm but focused. "They're falling apart faster than expected," he said. His aide, a quiet woman named Rana, nodded. "Their fleets are in disarray. Many colonies have already reached out to us for help unofficially." Soren leaned forward. "Unofficially?" "Yes, they are afraid of being punished if the Council finds out. But they're desperate." Soren thought for a moment. "Prepare relief fleets quietly, no direct contact yet. Just help those who ask, but keep it hidden." Rana hesitated. "Sir, are we helping them or testing them?" He smiled faintly. "Both. Humanity does not conquer with weapons. We rebuild what others let die." On the frontier world of Delaris, a group of Council colonists were stranded after a meteor storm destroyed their power grid. They sent distress calls across every known channel, but no one responded. Just when they were about to lose hope, strange signals appeared on their scanners. "Something's entering orbit," said the colony operator. The settlers ran outside. Through the orange sky, a massive ship descended slowly, its hull gleaming silver under the sunlight. It was human, unmistakably human. As the ramp opened, figures in gray suits stepped out, carrying supplies and power modules. The leader spoke through his helmet speaker. "We detected your distress signal. We are from the Terran Union. You are safe now." The colonists stared in shock. One of them stepped forward, trembling. "But we're Council citizens," the human officer nodded. "Then you are people in need. That's all that matters." Within hours, the colony's power grid was restored. The settlers were given food, medicine, and shelter. When they asked how they could repay the Terrans, the officer only said, "Just remember who came when no one else did." The story of that rescue spread like fire through the stars. Even though the Terran Union had not announced its presence publicly, the rumors could not be stopped. Across the galaxy, people began whispering. Humanity was still watching, still helping even after being cast out. Back at the Council, fear turned into guilt. The Velen chair spent long nights alone in her chambers, reading reports of disasters. She replayed old recordings of humans standing in this same hall, giving speeches about unity and fairness. One file showed Commander Ryan's final words before leaving. She watched it over and over. When the clip ended, she whispered to herself, "We thought they needed us, but it was we who needed them." She stood and looked out her window at the stars. Many of those stars now belonged to the Terran Union. Humanity had not conquered a single one by force, yet their influence stretched farther than ever. For the first time in her long life, the chair felt something she had not felt in centuries: regret. Across the galaxy, one truth was becoming clear. Without humanity, there was no balance. Without their creativity, technology slowed. Without their courage, pirates ruled. Without their compassion, alliances crumbled. In the halls of the once mighty Galactic Council, silence replaced the sound of debate. The seat marked with Earth's blue insignia remained empty, covered in dust. But to many across the stars, that empty seat had become a symbol, a reminder of the day the heart of the galaxy walked away. And far beyond the Council's borders, in the bright fields of Haven Prime, Humans looked up at the same stars. They remembered the promises that had been broken, but they also remembered the lessons learned. The galaxy had been in chaos for nearly 2 years since humanity withdrew from the Galactic Council. Trade routes lay abandoned. Colonies struggled to survive without human engineers and supply fleets. Pirate fleets roamed freely across the rim, and the Council's fleets were scattered and ineffective. Entire sectors teetered on the brink of collapse. Then, without warning, the first human ships appeared at the edge of known space. The detection systems of the Council worlds picked up massive energy signatures. Hundreds of ships, larger and faster than any seen before, moved in perfect formation. They were silver and sleek, their hulls gleaming with the light of distant stars. Sensors could detect defensive shields stronger than any Council ship had ever carried. In the Galactic Council chambers, panic spread quickly. The Velen chair stood before the assembly, staring at the long-range reports. Her golden eyes widened in shock. "They are back," she whispered. "And they are not here to negotiate." The trial ambassador leapt from his seat. "Prepare the fleets. Arm every ship." "This is an invasion!" The Corel ambassador clicked his mandibles loudly. "Finally, humans will be punished for abandoning us." The Yllari ambassador, however, raised a calm voice. "Perhaps they are not here to attack. Observe their movement. They are entering systems that are in need. Look closely." The chair adjusted the projection of the fleet. The sensors confirmed the truth. Human ships were moving toward the outer colonies, toward the sectors most damaged by pirates and poor governance. "They are helping," the chair said slowly. "They are saving our colonies." Across the galaxy, the first reports of human intervention began to arrive. On the mining world of Ralnor, a small colony had been surrounded by pirate raiders for weeks. Council fleets were too distant to respond. The colonists huddled in fear, unsure if help would ever come. Then, as dusk fell across the orange skies, a massive shadow passed overhead. Human ships had arrived. They did not fire. They simply established shields around the colony, blocking the raiders' attacks. Landing parties deployed immediately, carrying supplies, medicine, and equipment. The pirates tried to resist, but human tactics were precise. They disarmed enemy ships and set up controlled detainment zones. No one was killed unnecessarily. By the time the sun rose, the colony was safe, the pirates captured, and the settlers had access to food and water for the first time in weeks. A colonist stared at the humans in awe. They saved us, alone, without waiting for the Council. And that was the truth that echoed across the galaxy. Humanity had returned not with anger or weapons for conquest, but with efficiency, planning, and care. Commander Rian stood on the bridge of the flagship Solace, observing the fleet through the transparent viewports. Hundreds of smaller vessels flanked the command ship, each carrying supplies and personnel. Systems were checked, shields calibrated, and communications prepared. Lieutenant Mara approached him, her eyes scanning reports from the front lines. "Sir, we have dozens of colonies requesting immediate assistance. Each one is in critical condition. The Council cannot manage them." Ryan nodded. "Then we will manage them. Humanity will not let these people suffer because the Council failed to act." A soft hum passed through the bridge as a new fleet sector activated. "New reinforcement waves are arriving from Haven Prime and Solara Reach," Mara reported. "Estimated deployment within 12 hours. "Good," Rian said. "Send the engineers and medical teams first. Protect the people before anything else. That is our mission." In the Council chamber, anxiety grew. The trial ambassador's face was pale as he watched the projection of the human fleet. "We cannot stop them," he muttered. The Corel ambassador slammed a claw on the table. "Then we should attack. Fire on them before they reach the colonies." The Yllari ambassador interjected firmly. "Stop. Look at what they are doing. They are not attacking. They are helping. This is not war. This is restoration." The chair raised her hand for silence. "Quiet. Watch and learn." The human fleet continued its path through the rim, stabilizing trade routes, repairing power grids, and defending colonies from raiders. Entire sectors that had been abandoned now thrived again. Reports came from distant worlds. Medical teams restored clinics and cured previously untreatable illnesses. Engineers repaired orbital stations and planetary reactors. Pilots escorted merchant ships safely through previously dangerous space lanes. Colonists received food, clean water, and tools to rebuild their farms and cities. The Council could only watch. Humanity had returned not with fleets to conquer, but with fleets to save. On the mining planet of Helion, children ran through streets with clean water and food for the first time in months. Families embraced human engineers who had restored their homes. One small girl holding a bundle of fresh vegetables ran toward the newcomers. "Are you the Terrans?" she asked. "Yes," said the human officer with a kind smile. "We are here to help." The girl hugged his leg. "Thank you. You came when no one else did." That gratitude spread through every colony. Word of humanity's return traveled faster than any council message. Across the rim, whispers grew into conversations, and conversations grew into hope. Even council loyalists began questioning their leaders. The humans had shown a power that was not measured in weapons or politics, but in efficiency, organization, and compassion. They had rebuilt what the council had abandoned. Back on Earth, Ryan received a long-range report from his fleet commander. "Sir, all initial missions are successful. Colonies report safety and stability. We estimate that within 3 months, half of the abandoned sectors will be fully operational again." Ryan allowed himself a rare smile. "Then the galaxy will remember why humanity cannot be ignored." Mara raised an eyebrow. "Sir, some council worlds are asking for direct negotiations now. They want to join our efforts." Ryan shook his head.
"Not yet.
"We work quietly. The council must learn the lesson themselves, that leadership and responsibility are not titles but actions." In the council chamber, desperation was now obvious. The Valen chair addressed the assembly, voice trembling. "We underestimated humanity. We believed our words, our rules, and our authority were enough. We were wrong. They act while we debate. They save while we fail." The Corel ambassador slumped in his chair. "We mocked them. We believed they would come back begging for our permission." The Yalari ambassador's eyes were wide with realization. "No, they will not beg. They will continue to act whether we support them or not." The Tral ambassador buried his face in his hands. "What have we done?" The chair stood silently, staring at the empty seat of the human representative. The seat that had once seemed ordinary now represented a power the council could never match. Humanity had returned not as conquerors, but as guardians of the galaxy. On the frontier world of Dalinar, a small council colony had been lost to raiders months before. When the humans arrived, they restored power grids, rebuilt communications towers, and drove the pirates away. The settlers could not hide their astonishment. One colonist approached the human commander. "Why are you helping us? We are part of the council. You do not need to intervene here." The human officer smiled. "Because people deserve help. Not because of politics. Not because of orders. Because it is the right thing to do." The colonist stared at him in awe. "Then, we have been wrong to doubt you." And that was the truth felt across the galaxy. Human presence was no longer measured by ships or fleets alone, but by action, compassion, and competence. Back on the flagship Solace, Commander Rian reflected on their progress. Entire sectors had stabilized, trade routes reopened, and colonies were thriving again. The council had watched in silence, unable to intervene. Humanity's return was not announced, yet its impact was undeniable. Rian turned to Lieutenant Mara. "Soon, the galaxy will know that leadership is not earned through title alone. It is earned through action, through service, through courage, and through care." Mara nodded. "They will understand, sir. Slowly, they will." Ryan's eyes scanned the horizon, where human fleets stretched across the stars like silver threads connecting distant worlds. Let them watch. Let them see what happens when humanity acts. The lesson must be learned, and it will be remembered for generations. Across the council worlds, fear now turned into awe. The humans had returned and were showing the galaxy what true responsibility looked like. They did not conquer with weapons. They did not demand loyalty. They simply acted, and the results spoke for themselves. Even the council chair sitting in her chambers admitted the truth quietly to herself. "We drove them away, but they returned as the saviors we never could be. And there is nothing we can do to stop them." The galaxy began to see humanity in a new light. The humans were no longer just members of the council. They were protectors, innovators, and leaders of the stars. The galaxy had changed. 2 years had passed since humanity's quiet return, and the ripple effects of their intervention were now visible everywhere. Colonies once abandoned by the council thrived under human guidance. Trade routes that had collapsed were rebuilt. Pirates and raiders no longer controlled the rim because human patrols, fast and precise, ensured safety. The Terran Union had become more than a fleet or a government. It was now the stabilizing force of the galaxy. Commander Ryan stood on the observation deck of the flagship Solace, looking at the stars. Hundreds of human vessels orbited around him, preparing for missions that would bring hope to countless worlds. Each ship was a beacon, carrying engineers, medical teams, diplomats, and peacekeepers. The galaxy had once dismissed humanity as reckless, impulsive, and emotional. Now every world knew the truth. Humans were capable of discipline, strategy, and compassion on a scale no one had expected. Lieutenant Mara approached, holding a holographic tablet filled with reports from the frontier colonies. Sir, Haven Prime, Solera Reach, and New Dawn have all achieved full operational status. Their colonies are self-sufficient, and local councils are working with our representatives to manage trade and security. Ryan nodded, a quiet pride in his expression. Good. The galaxy will see that humans do not abandon responsibilities. We rebuild, we protect, and we serve. That is our way. Mara looked at him thoughtfully. Do you think the council understands now? Ryan shook his head. They may never fully understand. That is not our concern. Our concern is ensuring that life in the galaxy is safe, thriving, and just. The rest will follow naturally. Across the central systems, the Galactic Council had not moved. The Velen chair sat in her chamber, staring at reports of human activity. Her advisors crowded around, anxious and unsettled. The humans are restoring order, one of them said nervously. Every sector they touch prospers. The council fleets cannot match them. Our colonies are requesting their help instead of ours. The chair remained silent for a moment, looking out the panoramic window at the stars. We built rules, titles, and hierarchies thinking they were enough to maintain order, she said softly. We forgot that leadership is more than words. It is action, and humanity acts. The Corel ambassador clicked in frustration. We underestimated them. We mocked them. We believed we were the strongest, and yet they return as saviors. The trial ambassador, usually bold and boisterous, spoke quietly. We thought we controlled the galaxy. We see now that we only held it until humans decided to intervene. The chair sighed. The galaxy will remember this day. Let us learn from it before it is too late. On the planet of Dalinar, where human engineers had rebuilt a once-abandoned colony, settlers gathered in the central square to watch the arrival of new Terran ships. Children ran through clean streets carrying freshly planted crops. Farmers walked past fields repaired with Terran machines while traders prepared shipments along newly constructed routes. One elder turned to a young settler and said, "They were gone for so long. We feared the worst. But now look at what they have done. Humanity does not leave its people behind." The young settler nodded. It is more than help. They bring hope, pride, and strength. The galaxy will remember this. The human officer overseeing the mission, Commander Halon, smiled at the settlers. We are here for all of you, he said. Not for power, not for politics, but because it is the right thing to do. Every life matters. The crowd erupted in cheers, and the story of humanity's dedication spread rapidly. Across systems, colonies now looked to the Terran Union for guidance, protection, and fairness. At the Terran Fleet headquarters, Ryan convened a meeting with his top commanders. The projection table displayed every sector of human-controlled space, colonies restored, and trade routes secured. We have reached a turning point, Ryan said. The Council has failed to lead. The galaxy has lost faith in their promises. Now it is our duty to provide the stability they cannot. Admiral Soren, one of the senior commanders, leaned forward. Sir, we have a proposal from several Outer Rim colonies. They wish to formally join the Terran Union's alliance. They are asking for direct representation in our councils. Ryan nodded. We will accept them. But let it be clear, this is not conquest. This is partnership. Every world joining the Terran Union does so freely, because we have proven we protect and provide, not because we demand obedience. Mara added, Sir, there are messages from council worlds as well. Some are requesting diplomatic talks. Others are offering technical support. They are willing to work with us. Ryan allowed himself a rare smile. Then let them. But first we must finish our mission of restoration. Every colony must be safe. Every trade route must be open. Only then can diplomacy begin. Our example will speak louder than any words. On Solora Prime, the Galactic Council's leaders watched the progress of humanity with growing unease. Every report detailed colonies saved, pirates captured, and trade restored. They had once believed that they controlled the flow of power, but now the Council realized they had only observed it. Humans had been quietly building networks, refining strategy, and gaining influence without seeking permission. The chair finally spoke in the chamber, her voice calm but full of humility. The Terrans have shown us a truth we ignored. Leadership is not about position or title. Leadership is measured by the ability to act, to protect, and to improve the lives of all. The humans have done this better than any council ever could. The Corel ambassador, whose species had always been proud of military strength, clicked softly. We have been outmatched without realizing it. Not by force, but by integrity, efficiency, and compassion. The chair nodded. We must learn from them. The galaxy will continue to change, but the Terran example will remain. Perhaps this is the dawn of a new era. Across the restored sectors, humanity's presence became a source of stability. Colonists built schools, medical centers, and marketplaces. Scientists collaborated across planets to share knowledge. Engineers repaired spaceports and energy grids, and fleets patrolled dangerous regions, ensuring safety for all travelers. On the mining planet of Ralnor, once a hotspot for pirate attacks, children ran freely along repaired streets while their parents harvested fields with human-built machinery. A teacher gathered students and told them the story of the Terran fleets, of their arrival and tireless work. They did not come to rule us, she said. They came to help. That is the true measure of power, and that is the lesson we must carry forward. The children listened, wide-eyed, as they imagined the silver ships traveling through the stars, bringing aid and safety wherever it was needed. On the flagship Solace, Ryan reviewed a new set of reports. All major colonies have now requested human guidance. Trade routes are secure. Pirate activity has dropped to almost zero. Our mission is nearly complete. Mara looked over the data. Sir, the Council worlds are sending delegations. They want to work with us on joint projects and shared security. Some even asked to join the Terran Union voluntarily. Rian nodded slowly. Then let them. But our first priority is always the people. Politics comes second. Strength is measured by how much we protect others, not how many titles we hold. He turned to the viewports, watching the stars stretch in streaks of light as the fleet moved to the next sector. The galaxy is waking up. We gave it hope. We gave it security. And we will continue to give it guidance without domination. That is the human way. In the Galactic Council chambers, the empty seat of Earth remained a reminder of what they had lost. The chair stood and addressed the assembly. We cannot undo the past, she said. We cannot bring the humans back under our control. But we can learn from their actions. The Terran Union has restored the galaxy where we failed. They lead not with fear or force, but with intelligence, compassion, and courage. This is the new standard. If we are to survive, we must follow it. The room was silent. No one spoke, for the truth was too obvious to deny. Humanity had departed once, leaving the Council in chaos. Now they had returned, reshaping the galaxy with action rather than words. The lesson was clear. Respect, responsibility, and service were far more powerful than titles, decrees, or appearances. Far across the galaxy, on a bright new colony, a young girl ran to the edge of a hill, watching human ships pass overhead. She held a small silver flag, the emblem of the Terran Union. Her father, standing beside her, said, "See them, child? They are not rulers. They are protectors. They came when no one else could. They teach us that doing the right thing is more important than orders or politics." The girl smiled, eyes shining. "I want to be like them one day." Her father nodded. "We all do. And one day the galaxy will have more like them because they showed us the way." Back on the flagship Solace, Commander Ryan stood quietly on the observation deck. The stars stretched infinitely before him, but this time they were not just points of light. Each one represented a world touched by humanity's return. Each light was a life saved, a colony rebuilt, a trade route reopened. He turned to Mara. "We have done what the Council could not. The galaxy is safer, stronger, and more just. This is the dawn of a new era, and we are just beginning." Mara smiled. "The galaxy will remember them, sir." Ryan nodded. "Not us. They will remember themselves, and that is the greatest gift we..."